You good to go? Let's go. Ciaran McBreen in the education sector for 16 years and counting.
That's right, yes.
And you work with teenagers and children of all age groups.
I do. I suppose the youngest I've probably worked with is 5 years old. That would have been a bit of supply teaching a couple of years ago. But from a mindset coaching perspective, the youngest I've worked with is maybe 8 years old. And usually it's a lot of emotional stuff you're dealing with at that age. You know, understanding their feelings, understanding themselves and what's going on in the world and their expectations.
So for the ones who don't know who Ciaran McBreen is, who is he other than the author and the one who has a podcast? Let's listen.
Yeah, my most important job, Carlton, is being a dad. It makes me very proud, and I love being a father, and it's the most important thing I can do. So dad number 1, educator number 2. I love being a teacher. I love being able to work within education. The energy, the fun, the humour that children bring to your day is just fantastic. So I love that part of my role. And then, as you say, a podcast host, author, and professionally certified mindset coach. And I've been a teacher for 17 years. I started off in London in 2007, I think it was, in Hounslow Manor School, and had 5 years there, 5 wonderful years there, challenging years there, which made me the teacher I am today. And then I came to Dubai, and I'm still hanging in there.
Okay. You also have a podcast that's Let's Listen. So if anyone wants to know more about Ciaran McBreen, they can listen to the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast, Google my name, the book, everything comes up, all my links come up. Very simply, Instagram at CMB Coach McBreen, or my website, cmbcoachingandtraining.com.
And I will put the links as well for anyone who needs to have a look at it. With regard to coaching, how did you lean towards that from a teacher?
From a teacher, in 2016, a friend of mine was doing a master's degree, and I'd absolutely no intention. I'm not an academic person. I'm all about the life skills, all about developing people as people and their personalities. But unfortunately, in the industry of education, you know, we need the qualifications. And I asked my friend why he was doing it, and he said he was doing it because he wanted to eventually move home, and he wanted to keep up to date with the expectation. And then about 6 months down the line, I thought to myself, you know, maybe he was right. And so I started looking into it, and I got onto a course in Middlesex University for a master's degree in education. And wouldn't say I loved it, but the second year you could branch off into leadership and management and coaching and mentoring. And everybody was doing leadership and management, and I thought to myself, you know, maybe this other angle is a bit more interesting, it's a bit more futuristic, and a bit more, potentially open a bit more doors for me. And I did it, and I absolutely loved it. And so I did a master's degree in it, and my dissertation, 40,000 words, and academically writing about coaching. So I've literally, you know, researched, studied, ripped coaching apart, upside down, and I really know it inside out. And then after that, I wanted to get the correct qualifications to have my own business in it. So I went through the whole International Coaching Federation qualifications and did all them exams. And so I'm very proud to say I'm a certified professional mindset coach. It's a very wishy-washy industry out there. People can go online and do a 2-hour workshop and claim to be a mindset coach, you know. So for me, it was very important to have the correct credentials to be proudly, to be able to come across and confidently say, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. If you need somebody, I'm your guy.
So, are you? How many years did you say you're in UAE for?
This is we came in 2012.
Okay.
2012, yeah. So I think we're in year 11, I think it is. So we had planned to leave a couple of years ago.
Right.
I was going to set up the business in the UK. My wife is from the UK. And we found a lovely home in the countryside. We got the children ready for school and everything. And COVID came. and the country was literally closed. Not the place to start up a new company. You know, opportunities were limited. So thankfully my wife still had work here, so we came back, and opportunities came my way in the way of education. So since then I've been juggling both, juggling the part-time business and teaching full-time.
So can you tell us more about your work with the teenagers and children over here? In terms of not the school, no, but in terms of your business,
yes.
In terms of mindset coaching.
Sure. So I've created a program called the Student Wellbeing Warrior Program. And what we do here, we work on teenagers understanding themselves, understanding their strengths, identifying their weaknesses, creating actions to overcome their weaknesses and their challenges, and learning about themselves and what's important to them, what's stopping them be who they want to be and who they need to be, and also building the bridge between them and their parents. I get lots of communication from parents saying that their son or daughter won't leave their bedroom, won't interact with them, won't make friends, all this kind of stuff. So all of it is a toolkit to support teenagers to overcome personality challenges, to be better at communicating, to be better at building relationships, to be better at doing whatever it is they're maybe not achieving. And it's been great. I love it. I absolutely love delivering it. I get wonderful feedback, but I get a wonderful reward of seeing the developments in these people, you know, and when they contact me months, years down the line, when they've overcome this challenge, you know, this kind of stuff doesn't change overnight. It takes time. It takes a big commitment from, I always say to them, it's a team. We're here together. It's you, it's me, and your parents, your family, you know. And a lot of the things I do is about building this imaginary team around them, or maybe not even imaginary, but getting them to appreciate what their parents do for them, what their friends can do for them, what their teachers do for them, and creating this appreciation and making them more grateful for everything they have. But I bottom line it by saying making them better people.
The word that stood out there was grateful, making them grateful for what they have. Very recent things from the social media or from the internet is blaming the parents that I did not get the childhood that I wanted. My parents are responsible for this, and all those kind of things. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to use the victim card. As I said, when I've got a program that's called a shared program, which is the parent and the teenager share the sessions. So, for example, if there's 8 sessions, they might split a 4 and 4. It might be 6 and 2. It might be 7 and 1. Whatever it is, but the parent will come on and just let loose on their teenager, and they do this and they don't listen to me, and I'm sick of this and I'm sick of that, you know. Then the teenager will come on the next day and let loose on mum and dad. So she doesn't understand me. He won't let me do this and that. You know, everyone's blaming each other. You know, so when you've got blame, you know, you've got no responsibility. So everyone's using the victim card, and it's a very easy one to use. And I do see it very often in Dubai, in the education sector. You know, my teacher this, my teacher that, my mom this, my dad this. You know, nobody wants to take responsibility. So we need to teach teenagers to take ownership and be accountable and be responsible for who they are and what their actions are. And until we do that, we're always going to use, it's not fair. It's never fair. You know, and life isn't fair sometimes. And as adults, life isn't fair, and as teenagers, life isn't fair. So we need to prepare ourselves on how to deal with this and overcome this, because it doesn't go away. What we can do is we can equip ourselves with the skill set to learn how to overcome this easy way out of it's not fair.
And I agree with that. And that's what's I'm going to take you to the book that you've written. You've written this wonderful book. It's called Listen. And I have read parts of it. Wonderful. Let me ask you this. Where did you get the stories from? Is it Dubai based, or is it from all over the world?
Yeah, so it's the origin, the foundation of the book, without a doubt, comes from my experience in Dubai, but also my time in London.
Right.
To bring you back to the very, very start, I used to just see students sitting in the corridor on their own in my time in London. And you'd sit down beside them and say, well, what's going on? And they might not give much away. And you just sit and listen. And then they start talking and to tell you how difficult their life is. Mum's not around, dad's not around. You know, I'm getting bullied or I hate myself, all this kind of stuff, you know, it's heartbreaking stuff. But my point is that you sit and you listen to them. And life was tough in London. You know, it was a low socioeconomic environment area of London. And then we got students that were kind of rejected from all the other local schools. But we also got students who were straight off the flight from Eastern Europe, from Western Africa, from war-driven countries. So we had the English students who didn't want to be there, who got, in their words, not mine, got kicked out of other schools. And then we had a group of students who were refugees who were just so happy to have an education. So a very interesting cocktail of environments and personalities and cultures. But everything was the same. Everyone had a story, everyone had a challenge. And everyone was out to try and do the best for themselves. And if they weren't, eventually they were, but you had to dig into their mind to get them to overcome this kind of aggression towards society. And the amount of stories that were told to me, you know, some are in the book with their permission. But then I came to Dubai and there were students sitting in the corridor alone. And the same was happening. I'd open up conversation, I'd listen to them, and they would tell me all about the difficult things. Now, very different stories to the ones in London. But the common denominator on both, Carlton, was that mum and dad were not present in their life. In London, mum was an alcoholic, dad was into drugs, mum was never around, dad was never around, whatever, you know, the stories with the parents were not present, there was neglect. In Dubai, there was also neglect, but it was a different type of neglect. Mum, dad was a CEO. They were never at home. They were never giving that love, that care that they could for their own children because they were busy working. Now, they were busy working, providing for the children. You know, it's not a blame game, this. This is not saying that, you know, nobody cares for their children, but it was a common theme. And I wanted to kind of get these stories out. I wanted teenagers to tell their side of the story so adults and parents can read it and go, yeah, do you know what? Maybe I need to give a bit more time. And I'm not a perfect parent. There's times I'm on my phone, there's times I'm at work when I should be with them. So I'm absolutely not saying I'm perfect and I have the answers, but we're just creating an awareness. During the time of me writing this book, Carlton, my children would run into the office and I'd be telling them, out, I'm trying to work out. And then I just realized, what have I just done? I'm writing about listening. My children want me and I'm telling them no. And I close the laptop, I call them in and we play. And you cannot beat that play time with your children. And that time that you know, obviously as adults, it's not so much play time, but present time. And we need parents to be present with their children. We need parents to listen to their children. We need parents to ask questions with their children. And we need children to know that even if the room is silent, mum and dad are there. I can approach mum and dad with the problems because, as you see from the book, Carlton, there's many problems. When we were teenagers, life was tough. Now it's much, much, much harder.
Thanks for being very transparent, Ciaran. You see, when you shared that moment where you were trying to write a book and then your kids were running in, and thank you so much for making time for this podcast, again, away from your family. And I feel the same whenever I do the podcast or when I do the editing. You see, my daughter wants some time for me, but then even I struggle to manage. But I try and make some time, quality time as a parent, and it is difficult. So when the children say that they need more time, can you blame them? Not really, but then I wish they would understand our perspective as well. It's not that we're intentionally wanting to stay away, but there are some circumstances.
And this is it. This is why it's not a blame game. It's just creating awareness. So because of the work I've put in, the research I've put into all this, I'm aware when I'm spending too much time away. Now, of course, it's not as easy as that because parents need to work. We need to work because we live in a very competitive society, a very expensive society, and it takes lots of hard work. And so it's just getting that balance between knowing when to close the laptop, knowing when to put the phone away, and knowing to give that time to our children.
Well, speaking of managing time and spending time with your child and children, I saw one post of yours which was absolutely amazing. As a parent, and a very real one. It was haircut day for your boy, and then you were holding him upside down, and the barber was trying to, manage and work towards, and that is exactly what everybody needs to see, because sometimes with social media and a picture perfect family, showing that the family is picture perfect, but in reality it puts a lot of pressure on so many different people. So yeah, thank you for doing that one as well. It alleviates the
no, well, I think it's very important. I think I'm all about real people, and just to jump into my podcast for a second, this is what the podcast is about, Carlton. It's about me talking to real people. It's about real people being inspired by real people. It's about getting away from celebrities, getting away from what people put on Instagram, and actually flipping it and talking about real stuff. Who puts a picture of their boring dinner on Instagram, but they put the fancy one on, So it's a case of, letting everybody know that nobody's perfect. Everyone has it tough. Everyone's trying their best. So the more people that come out and say, yeah, this is my bad hair day, this is my no makeup day, this is my, my time of the year where I'm not in so much great shape, for example, the more people who do that, the more people will relate. The more people who relate, the more comfortable society will be, because we're taking that pressure of looking a certain way, of behaving a certain way, of earning a certain amount of money, all of the pressures that's put on us. It's society. But it's also us allowing society to put that pressure on. So it's about taking back control. And the more people who throw out, Instagram's an example, but who throw out the real issues in life, who talk about the real problems in life, the more everybody else can relate to it.
And that's what, again, to reiterate, that's what your podcast, Let's Listen. I've seen some of the episodes, and some of them are really deep and very strong, and some of them are very heavy. And people talk about their real journeys and their challenges, which when I heard some of them, Ciaran, I got to tell you, I was so grateful to the place that I'm in. I feel that I was in a blessed place when compared to that individual stories. So it's look, as I say, it's about real people telling real problems with real solutions. When people say, I need some time to prepare for your podcast, I always say, look, it's very simple. You're going to tell me what the topic is. You're going to tell me your story. You're going to tell me the strategies you use to overcome your challenges. And then you're going to tell me, what advice you have for people going through the same. And that's it. It's purposely 25 minutes long. It's short, it's sharp, it is deep. I do a lot of research getting the right people on. I get lots of people contacting me to come on. And a horrible question I have to ask people is, what is your story? And unfortunately, if it's not deep enough, it's not going to help enough people. The whole idea of the podcast is that we're helping other people. Again, real people with real stories, with real solutions that real people can relate to. It's not the David Beckham. It's not Jennifer Aniston. It's the guy next door, the girl next door. So, shall we go to your book,
please?
So, let's give. I got a signed copy, by the way. Haha. So, we go to the chapters of the book, and you have chapters like a toxic relationship, the jealous bully, my princess sister, and my controlling friend. The academic jealousy and body image worries. Oh, this is a big one, because this is something that I feel in my circle. I've a few children who go through that, the academic jealousy and the body image, especially the body image. School knowing how to study and writing exams. The bus bully and my imaginary friend. Dad, please listen. That was deep. That was really deep.
The end of that story, I think I actually cried as I was writing it. You know, the thing about the book, probably to go back to one of your earlier questions, just to jump in on that, Carlton, was I was given a story. So I sent out a survey, and I went to 38 different countries. And the people who responded, if they gave a deep enough story, I would then contact them and then do a Zoom interview with them. So let's say, for example, you mentioned body image. So let's say I had 5 body image stories. That chapter is to represent all 5 of them. So it's not that one particular person. So I had to be very creative to amalgamate all these stories. And I was very passionate I'm giving that individual a voice. That teenager, that child looked at me in the eye and told me their story. I owe them, and I want to give their story justice. So if I had 5 people in that one story, I'm trying to get all of their voices and get a similar picture, similar message across. But I also want to be authentic to that particular student. And this caused some disagreement with the editor, because the editor may say, that doesn't sound right. That's incorrect English. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what they told me. And I want to be true to these people. I want them to read it and go, oh, that's my line. I said that, you know. So getting that balance was difficult. So amalgamating the stories was definitely not easy. But as I was saying, when I'm writing the stories, my fingers are going crazy writing. My mind is going crazy. My emotions are going crazy. There's times I cried writing, and I'm the one creating it. Now I'm creating it based on the inspiration from the interview, but I'm creating that story, and that particular story at the end of it, when Livia, she looked out the window and she just said, Dad, I need help. You know, and for her to be able to do that, she was scraping the barrel. You know, she went through a horrendous day at school. Dad wasn't interested. But the whole idea of the response, to give the listeners an idea, the part 1 is the story, part 2 is my response. Within the response, we don't say that Dad wasn't interested. We say that Dad didn't have the skills to understand what was going on with Livia. Therefore, when the teenager's reading this book, they're not blaming Dad, they're understanding Dad. So part 1, when Mum and Dad or adults read it, they understand teenagers. Part 2, when the teenagers read it, they understand the parent. You know, my sister, school teacher, she doesn't have children. She told me she cried reading one of the stories because it reminded her of when she was a teenager. So people say this book is for teenagers. It's not. It's for everybody, because we've all been teenagers. You know, as I said, I got emotional writing some of this because it brought me back when I was at school. My whole passion for everything, Carlton, comes from a very unhappy teenage time. I hated my body. I hated my skin. I hated my teeth. I was not good academically. You know, I was good at sport. Thankfully, I was good at sport. And because of that, people thought that I was confident. Because I had girlfriends, people thought I was confident, you know. But the reality was, inside I was the opposite. I was broken. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted in my future. Didn't know what kind of industry I want. All I knew was I wanted out of school. I hated school. I hated it. I couldn't learn. And I take responsibility because I didn't learn. I didn't do my homework. I didn't listen to my teachers. Now, teaching was very boring back then. When I look at teachers now, I think, wow, I wish this was my teacher. I would have thrived in this school. But I wasn't. And that was me as a teenager. And because of that, I'm very passionate of working with teenagers now and making sure they don't have to go through what I went through. Now, as I said, it was nobody's fault. You know, my parents were very supportive. They didn't know how difficult I found being a teenager. You know, my teachers, you know, it was a one size fits all approach. That's the way it was. And it worked for some students and it didn't work for many. But that was the card we were all given. Some took it, some didn't, you know. And I didn't take it. And it took me to get bad grades at school to have a realization that something needs to change here. And it did change. I got into a local third level college, a vocational course that everybody would get accepted on. I was studying sport. I started reading about the body, started reading about exercise, started reading about the sporting industry. And you know what? I enjoyed it. Because I enjoyed it, I read more. Because I read more, I did better. Because I did better, I had more opportunities. And then it snowballed. I then went on to the next type of university in Ireland, which was in IT. Then I went on to England to university, and then I got my first job. And then 18 years after failing school, not failing school, but doing very poor in school, I got a first-class honours master's degree in education. Now, I say that because there's something wrong here. There's a big gap in the system. And there's lots of lost young girls and young boys out there who, in our generation, who didn't take that second opportunity or maybe get that second opportunity. And I think we have to fight very hard to make sure in our society, your children, my children, our friends' children, all our community, that there's no more lost students, no more lost girls, and no more lost boys. And instead, there's opportunities. Because if one person's not good academically, let's find out what they're good at. Could be good with their hands. They could be good with something else, but they're good at something. So let's not make an exam control somebody's future. Let's make someone's talent control their future. And whatever talent they have, let's find it and let's make them successful at it.
Which again, I think you speak about in who chooses my future, me or my parents. That was also one of the chapters. Amazing stuff, because that one resonates with me. Again, I'm not blaming my parents. It's just that back in the day, like you said, education was very one size fits all. And right now there are different type of learners. The teachers go to various extent to make the child understand. There are some trainers and coaches who make it fun. They always believe fun first, and then if the person has fun, they learn. And I'm sure I see that in your session as well, because when you teach many of the students that I know, I'm not going to mention any names, they're pretty good in basketball right now. They started off very, very gradually. They're good in basketball. I see you train football as well with a lot of passion. So yeah, that's something.
Look,
nice.
Everything we do has to be fun. You know, if we enjoy it, we do it more. If we do it more, we get better. If we get better, we get the outcome we want. You know, life, I always say life can be very simple or very complicated, depending on how we, perceive it. And people say to me, what advice would you give, from a coaching perspective? And I say the easiest, most powerful piece of advice is do more of what you enjoy and do less of what you don't. Do what makes you happy and try to get away from what doesn't make you happy. Of course, it's not as easy as that, but if you follow that theme, you'll not be doing too bad. You'll be feeding yourself with more happiness, and because you're happy, you'll attract more. I don't know if you believe in the law of attraction, but you'll attract more of the right people around you. By attracting the right people around you, more opportunities will be created. By creating more opportunities, then your world is your oyster.
Ciaran, what advice do you have for parents, and if they want to be a better parent or encourage their child? What advice that you have for them, whoever is listening?
I mean, this is a question I get asked a lot, and there is no one clear answer because there's no one clear situation. It's all situational based. So what one parent finds difficult, another may find easy, and vice versa. What one teenager doesn't like in their parents, another teenager does like in their parent. The foundation for me at home has to be, we are here for you. Come, talk to us. It has to be an open relationship. It has to be an open door policy where when the teenager is in a bad place, that mom and dad are there, that they're not feeling alone. It's very common for teenagers to say, Dad won't understand. Mom just doesn't get me. But they don't know. Now, why do they not know? Because maybe they've asked and they haven't got back what they needed. But maybe they haven't asked because they think mom and dad don't know. They think mom and dad aren't interested. So mom and dad, as the adults here, have to take the first step and start creating conversations like this. Now, I do it already with my children. As I said, excuse me, I'm absolutely far from a perfect parent. But I want to make sure the fundamentals are there. I want to make sure that my daughter can tell me if something is wrong, that my son can tell me that he's not happy, and so on and so on. So creating an open conversation, a household where the teenager can go to mom and dad and say, I need you. That for me is the most important thing. If we get that, then the rest will follow. I do a lot in my parent workshops. We do questioning, we do listening, we do accountability, we do state management, we do all this. But unless the conversation is allowed to happen in the first place, all these skills cannot be applied. So the foundation for me is, we are here. You tell me when you want to talk.
And the second part of this question, what if that is not there? What advice would you give to a teenager?
Speak to whoever has the skills to support. That could be a best friend's mom or dad. That could be an aunt or uncle. That could be a teacher. The bottom line is, you're not suffering in silence. A problem shared is a problem halved. So it's very important to get it out there. I have a team around me who I will go to when things are not good for me. That team is my wife and it's my close friends. And I do a module on this and I call it your allies. The whole idea is that you're looking at people around you and you're looking at who has the skills to deal with this particular situation. I need a bit of Tommy today. I need a bit of Noel here. I need a bit of Kim for this. Who has the skill set? Who will show me empathy? Who will give me a no-nonsense response and say, stop being so stupid, go and do this? Who will just listen, and who will give advice? You know, so it's knowing who to talk to. So back to your question, it's just sharing that problem. And if your parents are not there right now, speak to whoever it is, but don't suffer in silence.
So Ciaran, thank you again so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I'm going to put the links to everything, and especially about the book. So if anyone wants to get the book, can you tell us where can we get these books?
I can, Carlton. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. You're doing a great job, and keep up the great work, and I wish you all the success.
Thank you so much.
The book can be found directly from me, Carlton. So get on my website and book it through me, and I can personally deliver it here based in Dubai, or it can be got via Amazon. Let's listen, or just via Amazon. Just put in "listen Ciaran McBreen" and it will come up. But my Instagram, CMB Coach McBreen, and my website, cmbcoachingandtraining.com. So please reach out. I'm here to help.